Hello everyone, welcome to International Shipping Explained and International Shipping Method video. In this video, I will be explaining you the most common international shipping method that you can be using for shipping to Amazon FBA. In here, we will be talking about international shipping, sea shipping, truck shipping, and train shipping. So the air shipment, I can be explaining you air DDP, airport to airport, and air express. Sea shipment is mainly full container, less than full container, and CDDP. Truck shipment we use mainly in the full truck and drayage and LTL, less than full truck. And more importantly, we use this format with the cross-border international shipments. So train is one of the most popular now international shipping between the China and Europe. And we also offer full container shipment by train and train DDP. So first of all, I would like to explain you the air shipment. We will be thinking about three different types of air shipment. The port-to-port air shipment, air DDP, door-to-door, and more importantly, how you can ship your samples from China or any other location to your final destination. Let's start with airport to airport. So this is generally over 500 kilogram shipments. If you have a large shipment, you can get like really cheap price between the ports, and the delivery time is quite fast. We can think about like 3 to 5 days within the transit time. The faster inventory needed situations, this is like a great option, air shipment. Obviously, it is up to 3 to 4 times more expensive than the sea shipment as a kilogram. You will be able to track the shipment 7 days, 24 hours. You can choose like fast and secure, reliable shipments on this. You can choose different airlines. For example, if you're shipping out from China to go to Europe or UK, US, you can be using Turkish Airlines, Emirates, Cathay Pacific, Qatar Airlines. So all these airlines are great service and really fast delivery options. Air DDP is something is very reliable and suitable for between 80 kilogram to up to 500 kilogram. As I explained, DDP is due to delivery paid. So it means that this is fast delivery, but all duty and fees are included. Your freight forwarder is handling all the way to the delivery to Amazon FBA or 3PL that you're working with. So when it comes to the air DDP, there's no extra documentation is needed. When it's port to port, your freight forwarder or supplier needs to provide you airway bill. So this way you can send this information to your custom clearance. They can do the custom clearance, and you can ask your truck company to go and pick up the cargo from the airport. So when it comes to the air DDP, you actually don't need to do anything. Your freight forwarder will be handling and most probably consolidate your container or your air shipment. When it comes to the consolidation, what I mean with that is your freight forwarder will be collecting 2, 3, or 4 different shipments from different locations. They build a pallet, put it on the airplane, and then ship it to the destination, clear the custom, and do the last mile generally with the LTL or UPS options. And this is a great option if you're in a hurry, if you're in a run out of inventory, if it is important time that your product is selling really fast. It's really better to pay a little bit extra instead of running out of inventory. So air DDP could be an option when you're running out of inventory, in a fast product delivery, and if the price is not hurting too much your margins, I highly recommend you to use the air DDP. So shipping samples, generally we're using UPS, DHL, FedEx, depends on the destination or origin for the sample shipments. It makes really sense if you are shipping 3 to 5 different samples. You can collect the shipments from different locations, put them together in your freight forwarder's maybe office, ship it at one time. I can offer you a very, very important tip here. If you keep your invoice value below $800 for United States, you don't need to pay duty and tax. It could be counted as an individual item, personal item. It means that you don't need to pay tax and duty. So this is really important, saving the money and time with express shipments. I highly recommend this up to 45 kilogram. Above 45 kilogram, I recommend the air DDP. So the chapter question in here, it will be, what is the most optimal weight for air shipment? We would say 80 kilogram to up to 500 kilogram. This is generally for air DDP. If you have something like heavier, 2 tons, 3 tons, 2,000, 3,000 kilogram, I highly recommend you to choose airport to airport, clear the custom with your own custom broker or your freight forwarders, and ask the freight forwarder to arrange the LTL delivery or the UPS within the last mile. So what is the limit for non-import tax for US? that's $800. Below $800, if you declare the product value $500, $600, normally the customer will not check the product. It just goes through. So this way you can save a lot of money and time with your small shipments. When it comes to the sea shipments, this is the most common way of international shipment. I'm very sure you're very familiar with full container, LCL, it's less than full container, and CDDP. When you're using the full containers, when you have a large volume shipments, more control over your shipment, I highly recommend you to use the full container. Shipping full container is actually faster than the less than full container. I will explain you why. So the cheapest way of shipping for your landing cost, which is very important as an e-commerce, Amazon, Walmart seller, you should be understanding and explaining 100% your landing cost to your partner, to your company. It's really important that if you can ship full container, I highly recommend you to use the full container. So this way, your landing cost per unit will be the cheapest if you can ship the full container. So there's a direct import opportunities. You can again ask your freight forwarder or your custom broker to do custom clearance on behalf of you, and then the drayage, which means like the truck is going to pick up from the port and deliver to the end location. So the risk with the full container is there could be some additional charges might occur, such as if the shipment cannot be picked up before the loss free day, there could be like demurrage charges, and it could be up to $150 to $300 per day, or there could be a storage or pre-pull charges. So all these charges are optional. It doesn't apply always, but definitely when you're negotiating with your freight forwarder, ask them if there could be additional charges. LCL, which is less than full container. When you don't have enough shipment, enough cargo to fill up the full container, it means that your freight forwarder needs to consolidate your shipment into a full container with other cargoes. So the disadvantage of this part is that whenever the cargo ship is emptying the containers from the vessel, they will finalize this process as the last one as the LCL containers. The reason is the LCL containers needs to be empty in a port, in a third-party warehouse, and then distributed to the right locations with the carrier's choices. So that's why whenever you're choosing the LCL, make sure that the handling time and handling process is going to take at least 10 days to 2 weeks more than the full container actually. So there could be extra charges, destination fees will be higher, the unexpected delays can happen with the LCL, so you need to choose very wisely whenever there's an LCL shipment. CDDP. CDDP is great for the beginners or even the advanced sellers. The reason is you don't need to worry about any handling information. You don't need to handle anything as a process for the import or export from the destination to origin. Your freight forwarder will be handling. One of the most important thing here is like whenever you're asking the freight prices, mainly your freight forwarder will provide you either kilogram or CBM price. So you always need to ask your freight forwarder whether the quotation you receive is the full price already, any extra charges may apply or not. You need to understand that many freight forwarders actually consolidate the product into one full container. And if you don't have the container number, bill of lading number, you won't be able to track where is your shipment. I highly recommend whenever you're choosing the freight forwarder, you should be always asking what is the container number, what is the shipping line, what is the delivery time and sailing time. The reason why you should be asking these questions is otherwise you won't be able to track your shipments online, you cannot manage your listings, you cannot maybe optimize your PPC, your coupons. That's why it's really important to understand where is your shipment and understand whether the tax and duty is included or not. So basically, if you're an advanced seller, you're a big seller, I highly recommend you to use the full container. If you're starting, very new, beginning of the road, I highly recommend you to use the CDDP. Whenever you're choosing your freight forwarder, you should be very careful and ask them the right questions. So what will be the top questions to ask your freight forwarders? What is the name of the shipping line? There are many shipping lines in the world, such as the airplane that you're taking, different airlines, and the sea shipments, there are different types of shipping lines, such as COSCO, EMC, WHL, Matson. So all these vessels are having a different type of pricing, different type of schedule, and different type of routing. So that's why it's really important to ask your freight forwarder what is the shipping line they use, which port the shipment will be departed, which port it will be arriving. As you know, 2021, 2020, 2022, we had a lot of delays, a lot of port congestions, especially in Los Angeles, especially in New York, in the China side, Shanghai, Ningbo, Shenzhen. They mainly shut down and shut off after the COVID cases. So that's why it's really important for you to understand and asking where your shipment is departing from, where is it going, what is the route. The reason why I say the route is important, if you ship from China to Los Angeles, there are many carriers, many shipping lines that stop over in Korea, Busan. And this port is also heavily congested, heavily backed up, and there can be up to 3 weeks delay. So if you don't want this to happen, your international shipments, you definitely need to ask these questions to your freight forwarder. What is the transit time? As I mentioned, the transit time is really important, and it's directly, you can actually even search that on the Google, which shipping line is the sailing time is how many days. So generally, the traditional freight forwarders, let's say from China, they will be telling you, yes, the shipping time is 30 to 35 days. But if you don't ask which shipping line, what is the route, they might be only offering you the sailing time, which is port to port, but only according to the shipping line's schedule, which could be very different in real time, so real life. So definitely you need to ask the route, the port choices and shipping line, as well as the transit time. And you need to notify your supplier or the freight forwarder to make sure that all the charges are included. And the booking information is really important. Some of the shipping lines releasing the containers are very late, so you need to ask your freight forwarder how long it's going to take to get the booking information, booking confirmation. And the most important thing is that you should be providing the correct packing list details to your freight forwarder, and make sure that the freight forwarder is charging you according to the correct packing list. So after all these things that you ask your freight forwarder or supplier, you probably will have like hassle-free and easy shipping. The train shipment is becoming popular, especially after the international container prices increase a lot. Last couple of years, the UK, Europe, and Germany, one of the most important way of transportation, especially from China right now, is the train shipment. There are some disadvantages and advantages for the international train shipments. If your shipment is very heavy, you're looking for a reliable shipping way of international shipment, I highly recommend the train shipment for Europe. But there's one thing you should be careful about it. There could be sometimes congestions on the railway. It can cause a lot of big delays. So the best out of many topics that I can be ensuring you here is that making sure you ask your freight forwarder the delivery time, the type of the train, and what was their experience in the past, so that you can actually work with the right freight forwarder with the right for the train shipment. Truck shipment is getting more and more important, especially between the US, Canada, and Mexico, and within the European Union and UK. Most of you even don't know maybe how your shipment is last mile delivered. We generally use the UPS for the last mile delivery, but there's like a full truck, LTL, less than full truck, same as the container, and drayage Amazon deliveries. So the full truck is generally when there is a distance beyond 300 miles, then we need to use the full truck, because the drayage, which means the empty container needs to travel back to the port on time. Otherwise, you will be paying per diem, which means if you don't return the empty container back on time to the port will be charging extra money. So whenever you have a direct delivery to Amazon FBA or Walmart, you should be asking your freight forwarder to make the Amazon appointment in advance. Otherwise, it can cause you a lot of problem. It can cost you a lot of money, because up to my experience, if you don't return the container back within the 7 days, you will be paying pre-pull, storage, chassis, and per diem. It could be costing you up to $3,000 to $4,000. So that's why you need to be careful when you're booking your truck or LTL. You need to ask your freight forwarder to give you all the options, the transit time, the delivery time, exact pricing, and make sure that if there's going to be extra cost, they will inform you in advance. So the quick tip: comparing for Amazon deliveries requiring Amazon partner carriers, LTL shipment versus the local carriers, I highly recommend you to compare the prices with the Amazon partner carriers and the regular local LTL carriers. I will be explaining you in my next video about the LTL SPN details. So let's compare the rates and the transit times. So the sea shipment is basically between, if you're shipping from China to the West Coast in 2022, costing you between $2 to $2.2. Air shipment is costing you $8 to $8.5. Transshipment is like $2.5 to $3 per kilogram to Europe. The delivery time is very crucial depending on the sea shipment that you're using, the shipping line you're using. 30 to 35 days can be up to 60 to 65 days depending on the shipping location or origin and destination you're choosing. Air shipment is fairly fast, it's like 7 to 10 days maximum, and train is 30 to 37 days. If you're looking for a cheap but slow shipment, obviously the ocean freight will be your first choice. If you don't want to be out of inventory, if you don't want to run out of inventory, then fast and expensive option is the air. If you are selling in Europe or let's say other locations that you could get like cross-border with a train shipment, it could be an option. If you haven't tried it, it could be a little bit more tricky, but it's still worth to get the pricing. Shipment process. Most of you are asking your freight forwarder or even to us when your shipment is going to depart, what is the booking process, what is the sailing time, what is the transit time. Most of the freight forwarders, especially in China, is giving you very general information. But I would like to explain you step by step how the international shipping process works. Let's say your freight company is sending the booking form to your supplier. It's going to take at least 24 hours to 48 hours. Most of the freight forwarders to get the booking from the airlines or the international shipment with the containers. So factory confirms the documents, import and export documents, packing list, commercial invoice, and other requirements to the freight forwarder. It's going to take another 24 to 48 hours. So by the time you confirm the shipment, it's going to take at least 2 to 4 days until the paperwork is done. We have a lot of questions that after the customer booked the shipment with us, the next day they're asking when my shipment will be departed. But the time frame is actually working very differently. Once the factory confirms all the documentation with your freight forwarder and the freight forwarders confirm this with the airline or sea shipping line, they get the empty container, they send the container to the factory. This is done within the 3 to 4 days. Shipment gets picked up, either you have like an air shipment or sea shipment, full container, less than container. The shipment will be loaded to the containers, and every shipping line has 3 to 4 days cut off time. This means that the container needs to finish the clearance and enter the terminal where it needs to be wait to be loaded to the cargo ships. If it's an airport, it can take 1 or 2 days, but generally in ocean freight, that by the time you confirm your shipment, until that it departs, it needs at least 7 to 10 days. So you need to understand the custom clearance process already needs to be done in the origin. Shipment departs from the origin according to the route and sailing time. You can track your shipments on the shipping line's website. That's why it's really important for you to get the bill of lading or online tracking from your freight forwarders. Once the shipment departed from China by air, by sea, it arrives to the destination port. The arrival notice has been sent by the destination agent to your freight forwarder. The arrival notice will be sent to the custom broker, where the custom broker will start the custom clearance. Once the custom clearance is finished, most of the people think that the container will be picked up from the terminal the same day or the next day. But normally it takes up to 7 to 10 days. The container becomes available in the terminal. It needs to move to the location where the truck can go and pick it up. So these things all take time. And when the shipment recovered from the destination port, the truck will go pick it up, arrives to the warehouse. If it's a CDDP, it means that it needs to be break down, send it to the right location. If it's a full container, if it's going to be delivered to Amazon, we need to make the Amazon appointment, or it's going to the third-party warehouse. The container will go, either it will do the live unloading, or it could be drop, and then the warehouse will unload the container. And once the empty container is ready, the warehouse will call the carrier, the truck company, go back to the warehouse, pick up the container, return back to the port. So, and then the final is the delivery location, obviously. So as I explained, the shipping confirmation, the entire process, by the time the day you confirm the shipment, until it departs, I assume it's going to be 7 to 10 days. The sailing time, it changes from the carrier to carrier. Once the shipment arrives to the port, you need to calculate another 10 to 12 days. So if your freight forwarder is saying that it's 32 days between New York and Shanghai, then after 32 sailing time, you need to add another 10 days for the China operation, US operation. So you're actually looking for the 50 days if there is no congestions or delays. So that's why it's really important for you to understand the general international shipping process and asking the right questions to the right people in your freight forwarder. If we need to summarize, international shipping process is actually easy if you know what you're doing or if you know which freight company you're working with. You should choose what is the priority. Is it the time? Is it the transit time? Is it the carrier? Is it the price? So you need to make sure that you're calculating your inventory level and choosing the right shipping term according to your budget and according to your inventory needs. It's very important to work with the freight forwarder who has the NVOCC license, especially if you're shipping to United States. If there's any problem, if your freight forwarder has no NVOCC license, it can cause a lot of damage to your business. You may even lose the product. The transparency with the price of freight forwarder is the important fact to manage your inventory. It's 2022. We are living in a very digital world, so you should be able to track your shipments online, and you should be always requiring your freight forwarder to provide you the bill of lading and the container number. So this way, even if they don't have a platform, you can go and track the shipment with the carrier's website. Always make sure you ask the right questions to your freight forwarder and making sure everything, all the communication has been done properly as a written. You have the bill of lading, you have the invoicing, and you always need to request your freight forwarder to send you the custom clearance documents. So this way you make sure your freight forwarder complies the correct HS code to the customer. Thank you for your time and see you in the next video.